My name is Adamu Garba. I was born 25 years ago, and I'm a father of 3 children and a husband to Akiza. I'm the CEO of IPI Solutions Nigeria Limited.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So my first question is, as a young aspirant, chances are high that you will get a good number of youth to your favor. And I think the population of youth presently are not up to that for the age. What are those things that you can put in place to get someone on the aid?
Wow! You see, society only gets complete when you get the young and the old coming together for the collective good of all. Now, one of the good things to understand about a young man is his responsibility, his capacity to cater for the old. Now, what are the key requirements of the aged people in our society? 2 things. 1, they need to live longer. How do they live long? By having the right healthcare policy that caters for their future, that makes sure that they have the needed care they need whenever they request it. And the second thing that they need is sustainability. After them, how can their younger generation, their children, and their families can continue successfully without needing their parents? Currently in Nigeria, almost all the aged parents are still catering for their children. And this is one of the serious concerns that they have. And most of them have to cater for their healthcare. So these are the issues. So our healthcare policy, the way we design it, is going to make sure that we increase life expectancy of our aging from the current 42 years to about 60 years. So it means those that can live up to 60 years can live even longer. Now, the healthcare policies covers all with high preference for the aged. So we will ensure that all parents in the society, in the country, have the necessary care whenever they need it, affordable and very close to where they are. Then the second thing again we need to do is to make sure that the younger generation they have, the children they have, the families they are leaving behind, have jobs that can continue to sustain them in the absence of the parents, should they go. So our job policy will cater for creation of job opportunities for all the young Nigerians. And I am sure if I happen to be a father like now, my father is very happy seeing me taking care of him. And he's very happy when there are issues, he can be able to go to hospital because of the HMO that he has, which I subscribe to him. So this is what elders need. They need to be catered for, they need to be taken care of. So those are the 2 areas. So we will provide the right job opportunity for the young generation, we will also give the right healthcare cover for our for our aged parents.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
It is in my knowledge that all your employees are younger than you are.
Yes.
What exactly is your motive behind this?
My motive behind employing younger people. Now, there's another issue. I started this business at the age of 26 years old. I was also very young then. I was opportune to join the job market and spend 2 years before setting up the business. And I noticed some few challenges there. When I go to apply to job, to do some work for some companies, they always have the question, you're too young, you don't have the experience, and all those kind of things. But eventually, when I was given the opportunity to do some presentation, they were intrigued by the new innovations that we are introducing to cater and support their business and even transform it digitally. So I noticed that in the job market, generally, most people used to ask for experience. And we're graduating new people, always new entrants from universities into the workforce. Now, if they don't have these necessary experiences that HR is usually requested for when you go for an interview, how are they going to start job? And I noticed that there is another gap again. There is a fresh perspective when you have a new person in your workforce than when you have another person that has experience. In technology field, experiences could be a baggage. In fact, it could be a prejudice. Somebody will come with an experience of 1980, 1990 technology that doesn't apply in the 2000s and 2010 technology. So it becomes a problem because it's a very dynamic field. Almost every 3 years there is a new cycle of technology innovation. So you need a fresh mind that you can shape them in line with the way the current technology trend is moving. And that is why I find it more comfortable to bring in young people into the organization and then put them into the right path for which they can be shaped to deliver the right result. And it's been working because so far in IPI we have people that have worked for 7 years, we have people that have worked for 5 years, they are still with us, we have people 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, all of them are young people. At 85, I'm the oldest person. And we were able to achieve phenomenal results. We were able to outgrow our competition. Why do we do that? Because we have a different approach, a very unique, innovative approach to service delivery. All our customers have been very happy with what we've been doing. International organizations are even recognizing us. So far now we have up to 13 international awards. This is what young people can be able to do when you give them opportunity to express their desire and also to deliver results using innovation. That is exactly the kind of result you get. And of course, it's also the point at the fact that young people in Nigeria are not really lazy. Once they have the platform and the opportunity, they go places that nobody ever imagined.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, you have a big heart, and well, the masses are comprised of the youth. But how do you plan to make the age part of this experience when you are running?
Oh, you see, when I am working as an elderly person, our aged persons 50 and above, there are big concerns. One of the biggest concerns is housing. You keep paying pension from the time you join the workforce, maybe in 22, 23, 24, 25, and when you are retiring, you just keep collecting meager amounts from their pension. And because of our life expectancy currently, people hardly live up to 50 years. They die. And our pension scheme is designed for you to retire at the age of 60, or spending 35 years in workforce before you start enjoying it very. Why are we keeping the pension funds into income? Why are we not going to use it to build houses for the people that have demonstrated a commitment to servicing the companies or the offices where they have been working for? Every person desire to have at least a home for his own. That is why our housing scheme is designed around leveraging on the pension fund in order to make sure 70% of Nigerian workforce have houses to call their own. So that means that an elderly person, when you work to a certain age, you should be able to naturally have a house that is affordable for you, that can keep your family, that can make sure that you have a safe net even after your family will not go anywhere and start struggling. Now, if you go back again to our mothers, most of them, they have few concerns. What's the price of baby? What's the price of onion in the market? How can I feed my family? Those are the questions they used to ask. Our economic structure is designed around making sure that we eliminate inflation as much as possible by bringing down the prices of goods and services so that they can have small money to buy more things and be able to cater for their family in the most affordable way. So the entire policy that we're designing in the country so far is something that is a whole catering for almost every Nigerians, regardless of age or status in the society. That's exactly what we're looking at.
So I agree with you there. Yeah. So there's a notion that presidents that run are run by aged men.
Yes.
So what ignited your interest?
What ignited my interest was the fact that the statecraft model of the 21st century is a statecraft that requires some directions around building economic status of the country and building the security protectionist approach to country's governance system. Now, if you look at the history of the aged population that have been living in this country, our elders currently, most of them are people that came to power through military means or maybe shaped by certain ideology that is mostly leftist, Marxist, socialist, populist ideology that at the end of the day favors political class but also destroys the economic opportunity of the society. Once you don't have peaceful coexistence, once you don't have stable economy, once you don't have the necessary job in the market, you always stand the chance to have people desperate, and then as a result of this desperation, they get to confront each other and point blames and then create chaos in the society, which is the picture we are seeing today. Simply because the policy choices of the current leaders is shaped around security-defying world order as opposed to supply chain-defying world order. So we need a paradigm shift in the entire governance system of the country. We need for the first time to have people that are focused on upgrading the living standard of Nigerians than people focusing on favoring a region or section in the economy. And the current crop of leaders we have, they are completely shaped in that light. Whatever it is to change, no matter how you keep cycling leaders that are completely within the current system, you will never get it right because most of them, their ideology is completely conformable to those principles of politics as opposed to economics. And what we are bringing on table is economics as opposed to politics. Why? Because our thinking is when poverty is eliminated in the land, when people can afford to buy good things, when people can afford to live happily, when people can afford to have some level of economic standard in the society, their purchasing power is a little bit higher, then there will be no need for me to start confronting anybody. Why? Because I have a state to protect. I'm living happily and I do not need anybody to disturb this happiness. So the country will now be responsible for all. But the way and the manner and the system for which the current leaders are operating is never going to take us nowhere. That is why I want to tell you the truth that the current president of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari, is a very sincere person. If you check his life, he has no corruption or all those kind of things. But he cannot fix the country. Why? Because the model, the system is adapting to make the country work is not a workable system in the 21st century. It can never work. And that is why I feel like, with a fresh perspective, economic perspective, and the thinking of trade first, and the thinking of job creation, and the thinking of completely overhauling the system, we are proposing structural reform. And that structural reformation is something that you can only do at the presidency, because Nigeria has about 80% of its power concentrated at the presidency. That is why I come out to contest for the presidency. And we are very lucky we have a bill that is passed allowing a 35-year-old person to be the president of the Federal Republic. And that is why I come out to contest for the president of Nigeria. Those are the things that we passion. If you look at the society, everywhere is crashing. People are going out of job. Crisis brought down is becoming cheaper in Nigeria. Killing is almost a daily occurrence in this country. We cannot afford to sit and be pointing blames when blood are being shed. When some people are seeing killings that is happening between Herdsman and the farmers' crisis, PDP are saying that if Herdsman continue fighting, the governors of those states might be our governors. Maybe APC are saying PDP are against or somebody they are supporting these governors, all those things. They will be killing each other. But what we see is people are dying. We don't care about PDP, we don't care about APC, we don't care about North, we don't care about South, we don't care about East or West, we don't care about Herdsman or farmer, we care about people. People are dying, and that is a very serious issue. So until we rise up and pick the mantle of leadership to shape the country to work for everyone and make everyone to be part of the governance system and define an economic policy or the structural policy that is all inclusive, both politically and economically for the country, then we are also conflict in the damages that is happening in the community. I don't want to be, and I don't think you want to be too. And that is exactly why I came out as the president of the Federal Republic.
Okay, sir. The world is evolving,
yeah.
But this country you want to represent is lagging. So what goals have you set to ensure that Nigeria at least is classified as a developed nation?
Our plan, our infrastructure proposal, or generally the country's development proposal is a 15-year plan. And for immediately we finish implementing this 15-year plan, the country is going to be at least closer to developed country. Now, if you look at, we have specific key metrics that we want Nigerians to measure us on. One, we intend to liberate about 160 to 180 million people out of poverty, placing them at least above $20 a day. That means if you have 10, we want about 160 to 180 million Nigerians spending at least $10 a day. We intend to put clearly about 50 million people into the middle class status. People that can afford to spend $20,000 to $30,000 within the economy per annum. We also intend to increase life expectancy of our citizens from the current 42 to 50 years to 60 to 65 years. That's also key things. We intend to eliminate completely the literacy level in Nigeria from the current level where we are, which is somewhere around 25-30% to about 70 to 90%. We also intend to make sure that the skills capacity, which is currently at 9%, is eliminated, and then we'll put it to about 65% for this period. And then there are a lot of things around that, but these are the key metrics we want Nigerians to measure us with. I want to sit down in my own house and look into my pocket. That's how you will know whether the government is working or not. I want to be able to know if I can be able to afford the food I can eat, if I can be able to afford the healthcare. We don't want to be saying we are going to build roads, we are going to do this, because these are all part of the components that naturally is supposed to come to power the economy. So it's a 15-year plan. I know that our democracy operates for 4 years, which is 8 years. So after 8 years, before that 8 years, we will have built an institution for leadership development that will guarantee continuity of the project after I leave office, so that we can have a continuous policy enablement that will steer us towards achieving our goals, which is the 2019-2035 goal. That's exactly what it is. So we'll discuss this in detail if you want. Yeah.
So the educative sector is frustrating.
the
education
sector.
Yes,
Okay.
frustrating, and the economy is really unstable.
Mm.
So, what measures will you take to change this?
Education is a bedrock that powers economy, because through education you get skills, and through skills you power productivity. Through productivity you get economic growth. Through growth you export prosperity, and then it becomes inclusive. So until you connect the chain, you are in problem. But if you look at our curriculum, our education system in Nigeria, it's something that has completely become outdated. But unfortunately, we continue with it. Yeah, our education system in Nigeria is something we inherited from the colonial masters. When they came in and they are pulling out of the country, they set a model of teaching whereby most of the people they teach are the people that are prepared to teach the next generation of teachers. Then we continue with the model always graduating academic people, academic students, as opposed to practically skillful students that can power productivity. That is why we intend to entirely reform the education sector by making sure that we introduce what is called VEX, Vocational Education and Training System. And we are going to start this by going down to primary schools. Currently, subvention is going to universities. So we don't feel like money should go into universities when you have a shattered primary school, because foundations start at the primary school level. So we intend to remove primary school completely from the control of the local governments and then put it under the federal government or the task force that is going to be under our education task force policy. Because we are going to remove our school system generally, primary, secondary, and university, away from the Ministry of Education and put it under a task force which is called NDU, National Delivery Unit of Education. Now, first and foremost, we focus on primary school. We take over the control of primary school. We will, according to our recommendation, stop giving license to private primary schools. But we will upgrade the standard of all primary schools in the country. We have reasons why we do not want to go into class dichotomy at the primary school level. We have problems whereby young children that are growing up, they have a psychological disruption where they feel like people that go to this level of school and us that are going to this lower level of school are naturally ahead of us. This diminishes their resolve to continue to grow and doesn't give them hope in the country for which they need to liberate from. So we believe all children are innocent, and at the primary school level at least, they need to have the necessary empowerment and incentives to have standard level of education that gives them, that plans them for the future. So from primary school level, we have a plan that with 980 billion naira, we can be able to power 30 million children in our primary schools, which currently stand at 22 million. Currently we have 22 million children in our primary schools. And we have about 10 million people out of school, children out of school, that are into working or begging. Why? Because sometimes if you investigate, you find out that the parents cannot just give 200 naira PTA levy. That's why they send these children to go and work. That is destroying the future of our country. And that is also creating room for potential future Boko Harams. Simply because they don't have capacity to spend 200 naira for PTA levy, they send their children out of school. What we intend to do is, we are going to widen the net and encourage all parents to send their children to school. Not just encouraging, but enforcing them through the local authorities in those areas. There are all these ward heads, all these traditional village heads. We make them to make it mandatory for all parents to send their children to school. And then we invest this amount of money and make sure that they have standard classrooms. We create a teacher recruitment scheme where we have certain criteria that will set up for employing teachers so that they can have the right foundation from the beginning. That will completely disconnect the class dichotomy in their mind, and I will place them at the same bar, all children of Nigeria having capacity to face the future. Then from secondary school level, we introduce the VEX system. Instead of allowing children to finish secondary school and then finish university before they can get job, we want them to start having vocational training from secondary school level. We will partner with institutions. All the institutions we have in the country. Okay, so for example, UBA Banking Secondary School. Like in banking, you have a lot of processes. Now, all the process now will become a subject in that institution. Therefore, the student will have from secondary school the knowledge of how banking operates. So from the time they are finishing secondary school, they are armed with knowledge of banking and they can directly be employable to banks. Similarly, you go to construction companies and say maybe you need Julius Beja Construction Secondary School. You need Dangote Manufacturing, Cement Manufacturing Secondary School. All these institutions need to create secondary schools so that they can power the skills within Nigeria. We believe it's a win-win because I, who is a construction man, will not need to import skills and pay expatriate charges and every other thing to get skills that will construct the road that meets certain standard required by the companies or institutions that give me construction. And you have the skills that you even shape according to your test, because the passes through your secondary school is easy. And if supposing you graduate 100 students and Julius Berger is only able to give 10 students job, the remaining 90 students will go to other smaller construction firms and get jobs. So that is how we believe to build the skills. Then the entire university system, we are going to put it autonomous. We are not going to allow federal government again to be funding university education, with the exception of 4 universities. One, which is ABU Zaria, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. We have University of Nsukka, and then also we will have University of Ibadan and University of Lagos. The reason why we have these universities under federal government is because we want them to be centers for innovation, research, and discoveries and knowledge, where we can groom the future best brains of the country. Now, if supposing I operate an IT company and I need a prototype, a design, a solution that I need to buy to build my company, I should just go to University of Lagos, Center of Research and Innovation, and tell them, what do you have in stock I want to buy? You buy, you build it as a model, and then make it a business enterprise. We build leaders of tomorrow in all spheres of the economy. So we took control of these centers and concentrated on our resources to make sure we produce the best brains in those institutions. Then the other universities, we create a board, that will regulate excesses of charges that they will do to parents should they be autonomous, so that there can be a balance. Currently, as I'm telling you, what the universities charge students when they come in can sustain the university system. Now, some universities even collect up to 40,000 naira, just acceptance fee from a student. This is capable of sustaining the school. At the same time, they collect also another money from federal government to continue. This is too huge. So what we tend to do, we remove the money that they get from federal government and power our primary school education. We make them autonomous. We make sure that the charges they do is relatively reasonable, and we also ensure that our students are armed with necessary skills from secondary school level so that they can be productive. So you don't have to go through university education before you can be employable. From secondary school at the age of 18, you are fully ready to be economically productive. You understand? So it could be a choice for you to start contributing to that. So it's something that we need to do to remodel our education and channel it to meet the 21st century skills for which is in demand in the world, not just in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, insecurity is now the order of the day. And you would agree with me that forces are rising, people are dying, and the government is watching.
Yes.
What are the security measures you want to put in place to reduce them?
The biggest security measure you can put in every nation is economic prosperity. When people are hungry, when people are confused, when people are hopeless, they look to who to blame as a source of this confusion. That means it will create a me versus them or they versus we kind of settings. And from there, you build problems, you build enmity, you build hatred, and then you create confrontation. Because people are so confused in the country, they don't understand who they are. That is why we had a deliberate campaign. We are running on the principle of what is called 3R system. The reawakening, the rejuvenation, and the renaissance of the Nigerian state. On the reawakening model, we intend to run a 2-year campaign to address our critical identity crisis as the country is currently facing. Many people don't know who they are. We're just living in a place drawn by British, and then they say it's Nigeria, and then people are just living together. We don't know who we are. Many people, before they identify themselves as Nigerians, they identify with another thing and another thing and another thing. You will say, I'm a Nigerian. In Nigeria, I'm a northern Nigerian. In the northern Nigerian, I'm a northeastern Nigerian. In the northeastern Nigeria, I'm a Muslim. In the Muslim, I'm from Adama. A lot of confusion. So we have to address this. People need to understand that this geography is an economic opportunity for all of us. So once you connect the market and make people to have average standard living going up, then you give them sense of responsibility to protect themselves and then to protect the institution for which provide them with this prosperity. They will not send it away. So the best way is to push, enable the economy and increase it as an opportunity for everyone to thrive and succeed. Once you do that, we look into our security structure in the country. Because if there is an uprising, for instance, in one area of the country, and then you decided to draft military to go and stop the uprising, the military man will go there and shoot a bullet. And once he shoots that bullet, he creates additional uprising. Because the bullet may hit the culprit and may hit the innocent. And that innocent family will feel the urge for them to revenge. And then they join the cycle and the cycle keep continuing. We've seen the consequences in Boko Haram crisis. Very few people started this Boko Haram thing, maybe less than 2,000 people. Then when the military went there, they started killing. Immediately they started killing, some family members felt like their loved ones were killed and the only defense they have is to join the Boko Haram in revenge for the military. Then a cycle of attack and counter-attack, revenge and revenge, that extended into one huge enterprise that has killed more than 20,000 people. Just like that, simply because it's not managed very well, and we have a state structure that is so proud that we feel like anybody that rises up against us is our enemy. It's not the case. Call these people and settle with them, sit on table and negotiate what is the problem. Why are you fighting? 99% of the problems we have been having in this country from inception arise because of simple term called hunger. When somebody is hungry, you always look for someone to blame for why he is who he is. So that is why we have this problem. So once we unbundle the opportunity and then create a system of negotiation as opposed to confrontation and security or militarization within the country, you will have natural security taking its share. Once I know that if I kill one man, I am killing my market, I will do everything for that man to thrive and survive because he makes me grow. So when you create an interconnectivity of chain where the institutional void that currently exists in Nigeria is eliminated, buyers and sellers can connect and interact with each other. You make a man that is sitting in Inewi having 180 million people's market. You make a man sitting in Kauranamoda and Zamfara State having access to 180 million people market. The man in Inewi knew that if he cut out from the country, he's losing a large share of the market. The man in Borno State knows that if you cut out from that, he is losing 100 million market. Nobody will fight nobody. Because we feel like we have more reason to be together than to stay apart. So the collection, the making of a country called Nigeria is a making of an economic setting. Nigeria is not defined by natural border. Nigeria is from inception drafted as an economic border. Why can't we treat the country as an economics? That is why our plan is to institute 9 geo-economic zones in the area of the country and remove something called geopolitical zones. And then we work around our identity crisis. And then we make Lagos as the central hub that powers the entire 9 geo-economic zones in the country. And then have deliberate policy that will shift people away from poverty so that they can have more reason to remain here. And then from there, we negotiate with all the uprising we have in the country so that we can have a peaceful coexisting nation. I don't believe bullet is a solution to bullet. I believe table, negotiation, diplomacy is a solution to all bullets in the world. So that's exactly how we intend to approach all our security challenges in the country.
Yes, you mentioned the 3 R's.
Yes.
And you explained the first one.
Yes.
So what would entail in the rejuvenation
and the renaissance? Yes. The rejuvenation is revamping the entire country's economy. Like we have one of the biggest enemies in our economy, which we are not paying attention to. That's inflation. The inflation of Nigeria now is about 16%. All countries, emerging economies like Nigeria, you don't need to have inflation more than 6%. If it is above 6%, you are declining. You create a lot of issues. One, you disincentivize banks from loaning money to businesses so that they can establish industries that will in turn give jobs. Then, once you get the jobs again powers market men, they sell. From there again, it goes back to bank. From bank again, it comes back again to the industries, and the cycle continues. But when inflation is high, the economy is instability. Once the economy is unstable, it creates a disincentive for banks to loan. If they want to loan money, they will charge you high interest rate. That's why today, if you go to bank, you say you need loan as a business, they will give you 81% or 20-something% interest rate. Literally, you are working for bank. You collect 1 million naira, you bring 1.3 million naira. That means you are working for them. What is going to be your profit? They don't have any reason than to do that because the inflation of the country is measuring how unstable. the country can be. Today, Naira can be 360, tomorrow, Naira can be 500. So the best way to manage their risks is to ramp it up. Once banks are not pushing money into the economy, industries cannot get more money to power productivity. Now, there will be less productivity. Now, if you look into our economy, the economy is so confused that we only focus on commodity to grow. Oil and raw materials and agricultural produce. All these things, when we get them, we export them out to countries that processes them. So our policy around industrialization is actually exported out to countries like China that needed those materials to process into finished products and then bring it back into our economy, for us to continue to buy again. And this is where the problem is. So we need to look into how we can tackle the cases of inflation. 1 minute traffic can cause inflation. 1 minute traffic is capable of increasing the price of material. Imagine you order something from Ireland, you are sitting in Surulere and there's traffic. The person, if the produce is supposed to cost him 16 naira, he may say 18 naira. That means the price has increased. That means the level of money that you have in your pocket, instead of saving 20 naira, you are now losing it to demand. Demand increases the price because he measures the time it will cost him and the effort he will invest in trying to deliver this good. That means 20 naira has increased in the circulation of money, which increased the economy. So that is why our plan is, we will give strong independence to central bank. CBN will completely be independent with a one target and one target only. Tackle inflation. Bring it down to 6% and maintain it at 6%. If inflation goes above 8%, the CBN governor will leave the seat. There is no any big deal. And then we remove the CBN from where it is sitting currently in Abuja and then bring it to Lagos, so that it can regulate, manage, and monitor trade. Monitor the expenses and ensure that the investment we are doing in the country is going into the right direction. Now, we increase the level of our investment into the economy from the current less than 10% to 12%, is ranging around this range of our GDP. For economy to grow, you need to invest at least 35 to 40% of your GDP into the economy. For an emerging economy like Nigeria, currently we spend less than 10%. Currently, last budget was less than 10% of our GDP. We are spending about $30-something billion when we have an economy of $450 billion. That's less than 10%. That's what we need. Now, if you look at even how we spend this 10% into our economy, about 70% goes to consumption spending as opposed to investment spending. Salaries, emoluments, entitlements, a lot of things that will consume the remaining 70%. Recurrent expenses. The main capital expenses are 30%. So how can 30% power economy where you are even expected to spend 35% in investment spending? So we need to look into these traces. How do we do the investment spendings? We will stop what is called FAC regime, where state governors will convert in Abuja everyone to collect money they didn't work for. The money we are getting from oil is supposed to power our infrastructure plan. We have a $7.5 billion monthly plan to build our infrastructure. What do we need to do? We intend to dredge the entire shoreline, about 853 miles of shorelines that we have from Badagry down to Calabar South. We need to have port facility in Forcados, in Nembe, in Brass, in Ibaka, Akwa Ibom State, and then Calabar South. All those areas are potential port facilities. We will stop betting containers in Lagos and then push them to those ports, because Lagos, we want it to become one of the central financial centers in the world. Now we want to attract foreign financial institutions to come and settle in Lagos and then make it a real estate market. From Apapa down into Badagry, all these areas of shoreline are supposed to have massive real estate development instead of shanties that is currently there. We will ensure that Lagos Development Task Force has created funds to power that, because we are looking at once we finish powering Lagos, it will in turn give us more money to continue to invest in the development of the country. We don't believe Lagos should remain a state. We believe it should remain an autonomous city where it can grow and provide economic prosperity for the next 9 economic zones. Now, we intend to leverage on our natural waterways that are inland to our country. We have River Niger coming from the Guinea Mountains, passing through our hinterland, about 733 miles within our hinterland, down to Atlantic Ocean. Transportation on river is usually 8 times cheaper than transporting on land. So what we need to do is we need to extend dredge River Niger, dredge River Benue, so that all the goods that are coming from Atlantic oceans can pass through the river system to reach within the country. That will save money, that will reduce inflation. We will build a lot of energy infrastructure by building energy production zones around the shoreline so that we can generate about 40,000 megawatts of electricity using the coal that we have in Enugu, using natural gas that we have, and also using the solar energies that we have in the north, and also using the wind energy and of course the current hydro and the fossil fuel that we use to have energy. So and a lot of things that we need to do. So this is what we need to do once we power our connectivity and make sure that our supply lines are properly tackled. Poverty will reduce, inflation will naturally reduce because the cost for delivery of goods and services is going to be cheaper. Circulation of money will be manageable, and people will have more money to remain in the pocket than they spend. Our inflation will drop, our economy will pick up, industrialization will come up, and then everybody will be enabled for economic prosperity, which is where we hit the Renaissance, where we will create a civilization of peace and prosperity that will ensure that we give a platform for the entire black race, for the entire world to thrive on that platform. Nigeria, we believe that's the root of where we create a new civilization that will export peace and prosperity for the benefit of the whole humanity. That's where we reach a renaissance.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
So, one more question. Manifestos have turned lines, and promises are now cliche. So every time the same old story, unemployment is indeed a typical issue of interest. As the man of the youth, how are you going to address this issue?
The issue of employment, you see, when you don't have the right economic policy, any government that promises you that I'm going to create jobs is lying to you. It's policy that shapes the economy, that makes jobs to naturally evolve. You understand what I mean? So that is exactly what we need to do, carry on. Until we free this economy and allow it to be operating in a free market liberalized setting, where people from any background, regardless of whatever they come from or whoever they know, they can thrive and realize their full potentials. We will always be having problems. I was giving an example with Steve Jobs. A son of nobody, came, or son of a Syrian migrant, staying in the United States because he has the right platform, the right policy, the right framework that enables him. He was able to create an innovative tool that is twice Nigeria's GDP today. Apple is over 800 billion US dollar worth. That is twice Nigerian GDP. One company. Why? Because demand was in power. So what we intend to do in our policy is to make sure that we unbundle the economy to work for all of us by liberalizing all those areas where politicians are having tight control and then bringing it out into the hands of the business, businessmen and enterprise, and so that they can be able to create jobs. I mentioned about our infrastructure planning rejuvenation. What we intend to do is we go into raw materials to power our industrialization. It's industrialization that naturally gives jobs. Now we go to agriculture. Agriculture is one of the key areas where you power industrialization. You look into our crop choices. What kind of crop do our policy powers? In Nigeria, we have 84 million acres of land that are arable, that can be farmed. Why are we not farming key crops that have high value chain, like cotton, like palm kernel, like cocoa, like groundnut, and so on and so forth? Why don't we look into these things and then make sure that we create a policy that enables their plantation and harvest? Once you harvest a cotton, for instance, you have a lot of economic value chain. The seed of cotton is capable of creating oil, and that oil you can use it to process soap. The cloth you sew from the harvest of the cotton can be able to go into textile industries and can be processed into different brands. From that brand, it can go to distribution, more job. From there, it goes to retail, more job. From retail, it goes to the hands of a dry cleaner, more job. From dry cleaner, he consumes the soap for which it was produced from the seed of the cotton. Only cotton. These are the kind of things that we need to focus. We need to have our policy on job creation centered around our agricultural powering industrialization. We have a policy called F2F, farm to factory. So whatever that is harvested in the farm cannot go to market. We cannot be allowing farm produce going to our stomach directly. They have to pass through processing. So with the right infrastructure, if you pick tomatoes or pepper in the market, you have to bring it from farm. You have to take it to industry. process it, package it before you deliver to the market. Naturally, there must be need for people to be employed to process and package it before it goes. That means you have industrialization enabled, and then you have more job created naturally by the industries, and then you also have a more productive society. Because we believe until you make youth to be productively engaged in an economy, you can't ever have a balanced economy. Those that balance economy are youthful population, because we the youths, we are more productive. We work longer hours, that means we are more productive, and then we consume more. The energy that the youth consume, no any elderly person consumes, because a youthful person, when he has a car, he drives longer location than an elderly person. A younger person will want to go to cinema. A younger person will want to buy designers. A younger person will want to buy this, will want to do this, will want to do that. So he produces more, he consumes more. In his production, he produces and then builds the economy. In his consumption, he powers market. From market, it powers bank. From bank, it powers the industry. The cycle continues and then the economy keeps growing. So we need to put them to productive engagement by focusing on industrialization, and that industrialization will be powered by our crop choices from our farm. Then our farm to factory campaign that we are going to run all through the period of the rejuvenation process is going to focus on industrialization. Because one of the biggest mistakes we have currently in the economic practice is that our economy is gravitating towards tertiarization, where you have small job requirement with higher profit. Service-oriented economy. Nigeria does not supposed to move in that direction. We have to reverse back to industrialization. Let me give you an example of what happened when industrialization is dying. In 1980s, we have about 175 textile industries in Nigeria. Currently, we have only 15 working. 350,000 jobs are lost from the people that are working in these 175 textile industries. Why do they go? Two things. Why? First, federal government implemented a draconian policy, something like Ghana must go and this and that, and then makes people that have the capital and the skills to run away from the country. Just leaving very few less skillful people in the country, and then they run away. Second, there is no power, no electricity to be able to power these industries. So the industry just died naturally. This is why we lost 350,000 jobs. This is a very serious issue. Until we reverse into industrialization, we can't have a productive economy. Every person that tells you he has a program like N-Power and all those poverty alleviation programs, they are not just giving you incentive to keep being lazy because you are contributing nothing to the economy. So I don't believe a job should be given by government. I believe government should be there to provide a platform that will allow jobs to naturally evolve within the economy. That's how we will do to power our economy. And our projections have shown that if we enable our economy, Nigerians will only not work by choice, because there is always something to do. Our statistics have shown that 80% of Nigerians are entrepreneurial by nature, based on World Bank standard. According to the survey they conducted in Nigeria, they found out that 80% of Nigeria are entrepreneurial. Everybody wants to do something. And if you look at our diaspora community, Nigerians have a 17 million registered diaspora community that are sitting outside Nigeria, because they have the right platform in those countries. They are remitting 10% of our GDP. Last year, diaspora community remitted almost 41 billion 500 million US dollars into Nigerian economy. Just 17 million people. So imagine if you empower all Nigerian youths, what they can be able to achieve. So I don't believe Nigerians are lazy. I believe the policy system of the country is making it so lazy that it's not productive, that it's consuming everybody. So we will bundle this so that all of us can grow better and live happier and more prosperous. Thank you very much. Democracy is a big blessing to Nigeria, and it is our responsibility to rise up and make the country how we want it to be. We should know that with democracy, we have capacity to plant the kind of leader we want. We have seen what is happening in the world, even currently in South Africa, where when a leader is under pressure by the populace, he came down. There is no person in this country that we, when we come together, we cannot be able to make or break. It is our choice. Let us rise up, get our PVCs, and vote for the future of this country. We should understand that every single blood that is shed in this country, or every mother that goes to hospital, she could not get treatment and die, or every person that lost his job today, we owe it a responsibility. We take responsibility for that, and it is only when we come together that we can fix this country and make it work for all of us. I urge you to rise up, all Nigerians, to come together so that we can build our country and shape it to work for all of us so that we can put ourselves and then grow bigger, better, and more prosperous. Thank you very much.